Hello guys and welcome to the new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the new update of the Actor Interaction plugin. In this video, I will guide you through the process of creating the new interactable and setting up the interactor components. The process should be very similar to the previous version, however there are some changes and some quality of life improvements. So let's get into it. First of all, as usually, you need to download and install the plugin. Unreal Engine 4.26, 27, and Unreal Engine 5 are all supported. And right now, as you can see, I'm inside the Unreal Engine 5, and I'll be using Unreal Engine 5 for example of the usage. Once you get the plugin installed and activated, which can be done in Edit, Plugins, and setting this boolean to true, restarting the engine, you will be able to set up the Actor Interactable and Actor Interactive component. And first of all, let's start with the easier one, which is the Actor Interactor. Actor Interactor will be usually placed on the player, which I've created in here. It's a very simple one. I've set up a very simple movement, and as you can see, there is no interactor component. So let's add this component. Interactor component, compile, save, and check that in here the auto activate is set to true, and from the side of the pawn it should be all. By default, the Actor Interactive plugin is using pawn eyes, which can be set in here in camera based eye height. However, if you want to trace from a different part of the pawn, for instance, let's say from the head itself or from basically anything else, there is an option here in settings where you can set up the custom transform. If you set it to true, you can set the custom transform, and this option is available here as a blueprint node. Stamp set custom trace start is in here, and this node requires an input as a transform. I suppose you will be using camera, for instance, and this should be updated on every tick. So the tracing is done from the correct space all the time. But for the demo, I will be not using any custom trace start. I will be using the default one with default settings, which are displayed in here. Here is a debug option. There should be an option to toggle debug as a color function. I will take a look at this and make it available for you. It seems then that the Unreal Engine 5 does not support the buttons as Unreal Engine 4 used to. And one thing really important that we need to do is bind the options, bind the inputs. By the way, the inputs must be set up first, which can be done in Edit, Project Settings, and under Input, you can see that I've already set up the interaction to F key button. So if I get back to Project Settings to the pawn, right here, call key pressed on your release, and let's get the interaction event, which is here, pressed and released. Hook up those so it makes sense, and get time seconds. This gets the word time seconds, and that's very important to set up correctly, because this setup basically every time we press the action interaction, it calls to the component that the key was pressed or released at some time. So right now the player looks set up just fine, and let's take a look and set up the interactable component. So interactable component is the second component which should be placed atop some assets. For instance, this telescope, which is from a little bucket. By the way, check on your bucket library. It's awesome. So how to set up the interactable component? So let's open the blueprint. I've already set up all the collisions that are necessary. As you can see, I set up collisions for each leg. I set up the collision from the telescope body, and I set up a collision for the handle and the body itself. So let's take a look in the begin play. In the begin play, actually, before we go to the begin play, we need to add the interactable component. Interactable component, it is here. And this interactable component will be displayed in the world as a widget. And that means that we should place the widget at a logical place. Let's say that I want this widget to be placed here somewhere. Fine. And this is going to be the interaction. Rotate telescope. Rotate telescope. Okay. So how do I actually make it work right now? Because in the previous version, it was really easy. There was a set spawn default box collision, which was just one big box collision with no other options. How to change it or make a different shape. You could only scale it up and down. In this new version, there is no default box collision. There is only there's actually just an array of collisions. As you can see in settings, let me collapse all those other figures. So you can see on the interaction, under settings, under collision, there is an array of collision shapes, but you cannot edit it right now. So it's just fine, don't worry. We are gonna do that in the begin play. Just drag it here. Now let's make some more space. So we got the interaction rotate component in here, and let's say that I want only this handle. This where it's located here. I only want this collision to be responsible for rotating the telescope. So in here, I want to add collision shape, and I only want to add this one. So what does it do is that it basically says that this collision shape is responsible for triggering this interactable component. So what do I do with the other ones? It's just fine. So I do another interactable component. Let's call it interaction adjust. I don't know, like adjust size. I don't want it to be attached to the previous one. I want this one to be located like here somewhere. Let's say just here. So, and this one will be responsible for making the telescope do. Let me show you. Basically, you can see this gymnastic. So it's just size, the same logic. However, in this case, let's just grab all of those collision shapes. Let's make an array. And it's going to be 4 of those. Oh. My bad. Add collision shapes. And here make array, because previously when you drive this capture collision and make array, it requires only capture collisions, but this one accepts every kind of collision shape. So you can see I can mix up multiple different collision shapes. which is one of those new features, so you can have multiple different collision shapes at once. So as you can see, right now I set up this to be working with those collisions, and this interactable is working with only this one collision. So let's save it, and let's see if I set up it correctly. So let's get in here. What I've done behind the scenes is I toggled the debug mode. As I said before, here should be a button to toggle the debug on and off, but it is not in here. So I will take a look how to make it work in Unreal Engine 5. If it won't work, I will make this debug attribute changeable for you. So let's hit apply. And as you can see, because because I have the debug mode on, you can see the location of the trace and the green tracing line. So let's get to the telescope, and let's see if I can hit it. It looks weird, like I'm not hitting anything, but that's because of, yeah, you can see it right now, because I was hitting I wasn't hitting the correct part of the collision. So if I take a look and hit this capsule, you can see that the collision, the widget should be displayed just fine. You can see the widget is displayed, but I don't know if you can see it thanks to the YouTube compression. So actually, let's take a look and let's change the widget. Changing the widget is very simple. Let's go to the vintage telescope and the rotate telescope. Let's go to the widget and let's change one of those examples that I provided. For instance, this example number 3. The action title, rotate is F, and hold to rotate. Let's go to the edge size, and I don't know, for instance, number 7, and interest size, alt, and like for F. Now let's close it, and let's try it again. And for reasons to me unknown, it is not working. So let's take a look. Because I didn't press the F button, because this is one of those more visible widgets. Sorry for that, my bad. So if I go from here, you can see, oh, I happened to, yeah. You can see, at least you can see that it is working as it should be, because right now I'm hitting the handle. I'm not hitting the big collisions, because if I move because I move camera here, you can see that I am hitting. You can see it in the bottom corner. I don't know if it's well visible, but there is like a small ring getting bigger and bigger. Oh, and I actually finished the interaction. But here you can see the rotate, and I finished the interaction again. The different widgets have been displayed. So let's take it here, and you can see again the widget is displayed. So actually, let me change the. Sure, if I included the texture with the plugin. So let me take a look. Plugins. By the way, to see the content of the plugin, you need to go to the settings and show engine content. So in here, in the under all, there's a folder engine. Under the folder engine, there is a folder plugins, and under plugins, there is actor insertion plugin content. And in here, you can see here's the texture that I've included in here. So you can see that you can apply the texture in here. the texture should make it much easier for you. Yeah, you can see with the texture, it is much easier to spot the widget. So you can see that if I manage to hit this telescope, it is highlighted, and here the texture doesn't make an appearance. So it's basically from based on the different types of the widget that I prefer. So one thing that I didn't show you yet is the highlights. So let's take a look at the highlights. Well, highlights are done very similar way. If you take a look into exercise, there is an highlight subcategory, and here is whether you want to highlight everything. For that option to work, we need to do one very simple step, which is go to the Edit, Project Settings, go to the Rendering tab, which is hidden in here. In the Rendering tab, let's go to the Post-Processing, and custom depth stencil path, let's set it to enabled with stencil. You can't see anything different right now, but that's just fine. To check it out if it works or not, you can go. You can simply go and select anything. Let's select very simple. Let's add here very simple code in here, so I don't mess up with the blueprint. And here on the rendering options in the advanced, there is an option to set a used. No, sorry. There is an option render custom depth path set to true, and custom stencil value, let's set it to 133. And as you can see, right now it's highlighted. So you can we can say that the highlight material is working. So let's delete this thing, and let's get back to the interactable component, and let's set up everything so it's easy to spot what is going on the screen. So as you can see, the interaction rotate telescope. Actually, we don't need to drag another copy. Just reroute in here and add highlightable mesh. Only one highlightable mesh in this case. Let's make it a little bit nicer, so it doesn't get too much into the spaghetti. So for the interaction rotate telescope, we are using the range arm collision. That means that we want to highlight this range arm. And let's compile, save. And I've chosen the harder one to spot, but never mind. Let's see. As you can see, nothing has happened. It's just fine. There is a very good reason for that, and I will show you right now. So to make it compatible with the highlighting, as I showed with the cone before, you need to go to the blueprint itself and select every single of those static mesh components, and go to the rendering tab. You can bulk update every single one of them and set render custom depth path to true. Compile, save, and actually let me very quickly show you how to add a multiple of them. Set highlightable machines. As you can see, it's very simple, and it's basically the very same logic that's applied to the collision shapes. In here, you make an array of components that you want to be highlighted, and let's say that I want these to be highlighted. That means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's hook it up very easily and very fast. Compile and save. Now let's hit apply and see whether it works. And as you can see, everything is highlighted except for the handle. Oh, actually, the handle is highlighted as well, which is incorrect. Actually, it is not incorrect because every single highlightable collision is here is orange arm, orange house. Yeah, it basically is propagated to every. You can see the orange house contains the orange arm, and that means that it is propagated down from that. So there is a way in the future that I will adjust this logic, and that only those which are in the one specific array will be highlighted. But for now, every single array is highlighted. So as you can see, if I go in here and select the rotate, as you can see, it applies only to those which are under the highlighted mesh, because there is some sort of hierarchy applied to the Unreal Engine. But as you can see, if there is no child mesh under the highlightable mesh, it applies only to the selected one. So this way, you can very simply highlight what kind of set is selected. And as you can see, in the previous version, there was some sort of X-ray effect, which was really annoying. In this version, let me press F8 to get out of the camera. But as you can see, in this version, let me slow down the camera. As you can see, the X-ray mode is there no longer. You can see only those parts of the mesh which are visible are highlighted. But there is a limitation to this method, and this limitation is it is occluded only by those meshes which have set the rendering to the custom def to true. That's something that cannot be changed at all because that's a very simple Unreal Logic. If I go to the basic shapes and place a cone in here, let's adjust its location and place it in here. You can see the cone doesn't occlude the red highlight. However, if I go to the rendering tab, which is in here, and set render custom def path to true, you can see that the occlusion of the highlight is here again. So that's one of the limitations, which, but unfortunately, cannot be worked around. This is basically the logic of the engine itself. And sorry, you can see, you can visualize the custom def path under custom def path under one of those custom data, one of those optimized viewports, and it should be here somewhere. I want for that. You can take a look. You can take a look at the custom def path in here. So if you want everything in your game to be occlusion for the interaction overlay, every single primitive component like static mesh, skeletal mesh, etc., must have the render to the custom def path flag set to true. I'm sorry, I know. So that's the highlightable machines, and let's move and let's show you the new event that I've implemented for the interactable component. So let's go to the telescope, open it, select the interaction, and let's go to the event. And as you can see, interaction completed, all interaction started, stopped, all interactor found, and lost are all events that were implemented before. On interactor but raised is one of the newer ones. Basically, it's the same thing as interactor overlapped, but the difference is that overlapping is called when the passive or hybrid interactor overlaps basically any of those collision shapes, and the traced event is called when any of those shapes is being hit by the line trace. And there is two new events on interaction mesh failed and on interaction mesh impressed. Those are implemented because on interaction mesh failed, this event is called before on interaction completed, and is responsible for letting you know that the meshing of the button wasn't successful. So you don't proceed the logic of the completed interaction. You can just go back to the circle and restart the interaction from the very beginning. So before I go over the new types of interaction which are in here, let me quickly show you the few of new UNGs that I've created for you. There is right now 8 of them. The first one is very simple. It is just a texture with a circular ring around it. If the texture is not is left empty in the interactable, let's choose for instance this one. If the texture rotate, yeah, let's go to the example one. As you can see, the texture is filled right now, so it should be displayed correctly. You can see it's basically losing the circle. But if I rotate those, I think that was this one. If you clear the texture, only the circle will be displayed. Keep in mind that this logic is not written in stone. You can always go to the graph and change anything you want. I placed the key under the hidden tab, which basically contains all the attributes that I want to display. So please don't think that there is no way to change it. You can always duplicate or change directly what is part of the plugin. There is a few more. This one is based on the PUBG. Those first four are basically the unchanged default ones that were in the previous version as well. This one goes very, let me show you, it's number 4. It is changing its size. You can see, hope it is visible in the video thanks to YouTube compression. Oh, I finished the interaction. My bad. Sorry. Let me restart it because it takes a long time. And here you can see that if I go far enough, it is less and less visible. And when pressing the interaction key, it gets more and more visible. So this is logic which is written in here. You can always go in here and change it. It's just up to you. And let's take a look at the new one. Number five. Number five is inspired. Number five is inspired by Elden Ring and Dark Souls. So if you take a look at the you can see. Oh, sorry, I'm too fast. You can see it's basically just this sort of long line. I think that you have seen this one. It's number 6, and let's say the number 6 in here and try it out. Want to this one, and as you can see, it's basically pulsating. It doesn't give you any sort of indication that you are pressing the button or holding the button. It's basically just. I suggest this one should be used with the just simple press actions. And number 7 is very similar, but it goes other way around. Let me quickly show you. Number 7. You can see by holding the key, the ring goes larger and larger. And number 8. Number 8 is very, very simple. Number 8 is basically just display arrow that goes up and down. For this one, I suggest it should be placed like in here, because it makes much more sense. I don't know if you can see the triangle up there, but it is basically showing you. I suggest to use those with smaller items. It should fit them much nicer. Actually, right now you can see that I was wrong before. Let me go outside the viewport. As you can see, the handle is not highlighted. This part is overlaying the highlighted parts. So right now it looks like that everything is highlighted. However, the handle is not highlighted. So the difference between those two arrays is set up correctly. So that was my bad. I'm sorry for that. So that's the widgets, the new widgets. Feel free to test them out and see what fits you the best. And let's get back to the interactable. Let's get back to the interactable, which this is gonna be faster, and show you about the new interaction types. The hold, basically hold the button for a specified period of time, which can be found in here. A press, simple press button. Hybrid. Hybrid is very specific sort of event. Let me find the event here. On interaction completed, and in here, in the interaction completed, there is let's place a switch here, and if it's a hybrid mode, you can do multiple things because you will receive the finish time. So let me print a string here if it's when it is a hybrid mode, and I'm now not sure which one I set the hybrid mode. not this one. So I guess it's gonna be this one. As you can see in the top left corner of the screen, I've received there is the time that the interaction has finished. So you can simply select based on the time and compare whether the time is for its time. It just signs last interaction time, and when the last interaction time plus just size, just size. There's no need to let it again. Mesh get min interaction. Let me take a look how it's called in here. Threshold, sorry. Get every time threshold. And this way, you can quite simply decide whether the interaction was finished by a simple press, because if so, that means the last interaction time. Let's say that I start immediately in 0. That means that the last interaction time is 0. The threshold for the event to be either a press or hold is 1/4 of a second, and the finish time is 0.1 second. That means that the finish time is smaller than the threshold. That means it is a press. Otherwise, it would be a hold event. So that's this type of interaction, and then there is a mesh. Just simply meshing the button for multiple times until the interaction time is finished. And for the mesh, there is how many times you need actually to mesh the button so the interaction can be finished successfully. So let's say that 100 and okay, that's way too much. Let's say 20. The 20 times you need to mesh the button 20 times, and you have 1.5 seconds to hit this minimum amount. If you manage to do it in the time, you will be rewarded by the interaction completed. If you want to make it in time, the interaction mesh failed will be called, and then interaction completed will be called. So this way you can work it around and stop the interaction and restart the interaction. So this is the new interaction type. Then there is auto, and auto is very simple. Actually, let me show you the auto interaction. And I'm really bad at. Oh, actually, already finished. So I didn't press any button. The auto logic is that all you need to do is basically look or overlap the collision shapes. So that's the new logic. This part in here is the most biggest change that is in there, because in this way you have ability to specify which part interacts with which component, and previously there was not so easy in the previous version. If you wanted this collision to be responsible for one logic, and this collision to be responsible for other logic, and this collision to be responsible for the same logic as this one, you there must be just one huge collision box. So this way you can basically specify which collision is responsible for what logic. and it gives you more granular control over the interaction, which is, I believe, it's one of the things that are very good for you to work with. Another thing that has changed quite a lot is the widget logic. I changed those names a little bit, and I gave you the ability to specify the icon. In the IMGs, there is this interactable base. Please do not change this class. It looks terrible, I know, but that's intentional. This is just the base which contains all those attributes that are necessary for the widget to work, and which contain this very simple logic which initialize the widget component, and without this even the component won't work. So if you want to create your own custom widget blueprints, please always make your widgets and then reprint them to this class. It is very simple. You basically create new widget blueprint, use a widget, maybe the underscore test, and you make whatever you want. Then in the graph, in the class settings, parent class should be VBP interactable base. If you do this and try to compile, you can see that all this logic has been copied over, and you can actually adjust everything you want. So this way, you have much more general ability to change the widgets. You can always go to the examples and copy those and make your own. I've created some new materials for you. For instance, I think those lines, which are used in one of those widgets. You have ability to change the color of the lines, and you can fill them with anything you want. You can fill them with color, even though it looks terrible. I suggest to leave the center area empty, and all of that is placed under the plugins, under the engine. And if you need any help with anything, just join the Discord server. The link is in the description under the video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And have a nice day, guys. Bye bye.